Grimm's Fairy Tales. The Brothers Grimm. Illustrated by Noel Pocock. Hans in luck. Hans had served his master several years, and at last said to him, "Master, my time is up. I should like to go home and see my mother. So give me my wages." And the master said, "You have been a faithful and good servant, so your pay shall be handsome." Then he gave him a piece of silver that was as big as his head. Hans took out his pocket handkerchief, put the piece of silver into it, threw it over his shoulder, and jogged off homewards. As he went lazily on, dragging one foot after another, a man came in sight, trotting along gaily up on a capital horse. "Ah!" said Hans aloud. "What a fine thing it is to ride on horseback! There he sits as if he was at home in his chair. He strips against no stones, spares his shoes, and yet gets on he heartily knows how." The horseman heard this and said, "Well, Hans, why do you go on foot then?" "Ah," he said, "I have this load to carry. To be sure it is silver, but it is so heavy that I can't hold up my head. And it hurts my shoulders sadly." "What do you say to changing?" said the horseman. "I will give you my horse, and you shall give me the silver." With all my heart," said Hans. "But I tell you one thing, you'll have to be wary to drag it along." The horseman got off, took the silver, helped Hans up, gave him the bridle into his hand, and said, "When you want to go very fast, just smack your lips aloud and cry, 'Yip!'" Hans was delighted as he sat on the horse and rode merrily along. After a time he thought he should like to go a little faster, so he smacked his lips and tried, "Yip!" Away went the horse, full gallop, and before Hans knew what he was about, he was thrown off and lay in a ditch by the roadside. And his horse would have run off if a shepherd who was coming by driving cows had not stopped it. Hans soon came to himself and got upon his legs. He was sadly vexed and said to the shepherd, "This riding is no joke. When a man gets on a beast like this that stumbles and flings him off as if he would break his neck. However, I'm off now once for all. I like your cow a great deal better. One can walk along at one's leisure behind her, and have milk, butter, and cheese every day into the bargain. What would I give to have such a cow?" "Well," said the shepherd, "if you are so fond of her, I would change my cow for your horse." "Done," said Hans merrily. The shepherd jumped upon the horse, and away he drove. Hans drove off his cow quietly, and thought his bargain a very lucky one. "If I have only a piece of bread, and I certainly shall be able to get that, I can, whenever I like, eat my butter and cheese with it, and when I am thirsty I can milk my cow and drink the milk. What can I wish for more?" When he came to an inn, he halted, ate up all his bread, and gave away his last penny for a glass of beer, and then drove his cow towards his mother's village. And the heat grew as noon came on, till at last he found himself on a wide heath that would take him more than an hour to cross. And he began to be so hot and parched that his tongue caved to the roof of his mouth. "I can find a cure for this," thought he. Now will I milk my cow and quench my thirst." So he tied her to the stump of the tree and held his leathern cup to milk into. But not a drop was there to be had. While he was trying his luck and managing the matter very clumsily, an uneasy beast gave him a kick on the head. The uneasy beast gave him a kick on the head that knocked him down, and there he lay a long while senseless. Luckily, a butcher soon came by driving a pig in a wheelbarrow. "What is the matter with you?" said the butcher, as he helped him up. Hans told him what had happened, and the butcher gave him a flask, saying, "There, drink and refresh yourself. Your cow will give you no milk. She is an old beast, good for nothing but the slaughterhouse." "Alas, alas," said Hans. Who would have it is not tender enough for me. If it were a pig now, one could do something with it. It would at any rate make some sausages." "Well," said the butcher, "to please you, I'll change and give you the pig for the cow." "Heaven reward you for your kindness," said Hans, as he gave the butcher the cow and took the pig off the wheelbarrow and drove it off, holding it by the string that was tied to its leg. So on he jogged, and all seemed now to go right with him. He had met with some misfortunes, to be sure, but he was now well repaid. The next person he met was a countryman carrying a fine white goose under his arm. The countryman stopped to ask what was o'clock, and Hans told him all his luck and how he had made so many good bargains. The countryman said that he was going to take the goose to a christening. "Feel," he said, "how heavy is it? And yet it is only 8 weeks old. Whosoever roasts and eats it may cut plenty of fat off of it. It has lived so well." "You're right," said Hans, as he weighed it in his hand. "But my pig is no trifle." Meantime, the courtman began to look grave and shook his head. "Hark ye," said he, "my good friend, your pig may get you into a scrape in the village I just come from. The squire has had a pig stolen out of his sty. I was dreadfully afraid when I saw you that you had got the squire's pig. It will be a bad job if they catch you. The least they'll do will be to throw you into the horse pond." Poor Hans was sadly frightened. "Good man," he cried, "pray get me out of this scrape. You know this country better than I. Take my pig and give me the goose." "I ought to have something into the bargain," said the countryman. "However, I will not bear hard upon you, as you are in trouble." Then he took the string in his hand and drove off the pig by the side path, while Hans went on the way homewards free from care. After all, he thought, I have the best of the bargain. First there will be a capital roast. Then the fat will find me in goose grease for 6 months. And then there are all the beautiful white feathers. I will put them into my pillow. And then I am sure I shall sleep soundly without rocking. How happy my mother will be. As he came to the last village, he saw a scissor grinder with his wheel working away, singing, "O hill and o dale, so happy I roam. Work light and live well, all the world is my home. Who so blithe, so merry as I?" Hans stood looking for a while, and at last said, "You must be well off, Master Grinder. You seem so happy at your work." "Yes," said the other man, "mine is a golden trade. A good grinder never puts his hand in his pocket without finding money in it. But where did you get that beautiful goose?" "I did not buy it, but changed a pig for it." And where did you get the pig?" "I gave a cow for it." "And the cow?" "I gave a horse for it." "And the horse?" "I gave a piece of silver as big as my head for that." "And the silver?" "Oh, I worked hard for that 7 long years." "You have thriven well in the world hitherto," said the grinder. "Now if you could find money in your pocket whenever you put your hand into it, your fortune would be made." "Very true. But how is that to be managed?" "You must turn grinder like me," said the other. "You only want a grindstone. The rest will come of itself. Here is one that is a little the worse for wear. I would not ask more than the value of your goose for it. Will you buy?" "How can you ask such a question?" replied Hans. "I should be the happiest man in the world if I could have money whenever I put my hand in my pocket. What could I want more? There's the goose." "Now," said the grinder, as he gave him a common rough stone that lay by his side, "this is a most capital stone. Do but manage it cleverly, and you can make an old nail cut with it." Hans took the stone and went off with his light heart. His eyes sparkled for joy, and he said to himself, "I must have been born in a lucky hour. Everything that I want or wish for comes to me of itself." Meantime, he began to be tired, for he had been traveling ever since daybreak. He was hungry, too. For he had given away his last penny in his joy at getting the cow. At last he could go no further, and the stone tired him terribly. He dragged himself to the side of the pond, that he might drink some water and rest a while. Soon as he laid the stone carefully by his side on the bank, but as he stooped down to drink, he forgot it, pushed it a little, and down it went plump into the pond. For a while he watched it sinking in the deep clear water, then sprang up for joy and again fell upon his knees, and thanked heaven with tears in his eyes for its kindness in taking away his only plague, the ugly heavy stone. "How happy I am!" he cried. "No mortal was ever so lucky as I am." Then up he got with a light and a merry heart, and walked on free from all of his troubles till he reached his mother's house. The Traveling Musicians. An honest farmer had once an ass that had been a faithful servant to him a great many years, but was now growing old, and every day more and more unfit to work. His master therefore was tired of keeping him, and began to think of putting an end to him. But the ass, who saw that some mischief was in the wind, took himself slyly off, and began his journey towards Bremen. "For there," he thought, "I may chance to be chosen town musician." After he had traveled a little way, he spied a dog lying by the roadside and panting as if he was tired. "What makes you pant so, my friend?" said the ass. "Alas," said the dog, "my master was going to knock me on the head because I was too old and weak, and can no longer make myself useful to him in hunting, so I ran away. But what can I do to earn my livelihood?" "Hark ye," said the ass, "I am going to Bremen to turn musician. Suppose you go with me and try what you can do in the same way." The dog said he was willing, and they jogged on together. They had not gone far away before they saw a cat sitting in the middle of the road and making a most rueful face. "Pray, my good lady," said the ass, "what is the matter with you? You look quite out of spirits."
"Ah me," said the cat, "how can one be in good spirits when one's life is in danger? Because I am beginning to grow old, and had rather lie at my ease by the fire than run about the house after the mice. My mistress lay hold of me and was going to drown me. And though I have been lucky enough to get away from her, I do not know what I am to live upon."
"Oh," said the ass, "by all means go with us to Bremen. You are a good night singer, and may make your fortune as one of the waits." The cat was pleased with the thought and joined the party. Soon afterwards, as they were passing by a farmyard, they saw a cock perched upon a gate and screaming out with all his might and main. "Bravo!" said the ass. Upon my word, you make a famous noise. Pray, what is this all about?"
"Why," said the cock, "I was just now saying that we should have fine weather for our washing day, and yet my mistress and the cook don't
thank me for my pains, but threaten to cut off my head tomorrow and make broth of me for the guests that are coming on Sunday. Heaven forbid, said the ass. Come with us, Master Chanticleer. It will be better at any rate than staying here to have your head cut off. Besides, who knows? If we take care to sing in tune, we may get up some kind of concert. So come along with us. With all my heart, said the cock. So they all four went on jollily together. They could not, however, reach the town the first day, so when night came on, they went into a wood to sleep. The ass and the dog laid themselves down under a great tree, and the cat climbed into the branches, while the cock, thinking that the higher he sat, the safer he should be, flew up to the top of the tree, and then, according to his custom before he went to sleep, looked out on all sides to see that everything was well. In doing this, he saw afar off something bright and shining, and calling to his companions, "There must be a house no great way off, for I see a light." "If that be the case," said the ass, "we had better change our quarters, for our lodging is not the best in the world." "Besides," added the dog, "I should not be the worst for a bone or two, or a bit of meat." So they walked off together towards the spot that Chanticleer had seen the light, and as they drew near, it became larger and brighter till they at last came close to the house in which a gang of robbers lived. The ass, being the tallest of the company, marched up to the window and peeked in. "Well, donkey," said Chanticleer, "what do you see?" "What do I see?" replied the ass. "Why, I see a table spread with all kinds of good things, and robbers sitting around it, making merry." "What would he a noble lodging for us?" said the cock. "Yes," said the ass, "if we could only get in." So they consulted together how they should contrive to get the robbers out, and at last they hit upon a plan. The ass placed himself upright on his hind legs, and with his 4 feet resting against the window. The dog got upon his back, and the cat scrambled up onto the dog's shoulders, and the cock flew up and sat on the cat's head. When all was ready, a signal was given, and they began their music. The ass brayed, the dog barked, and the cat mewed, and the cock screamed. And then they all broke through the window at once, and came tumbling into the room amongst the broken glass with a most hideous clatter. The robbers, who had been not a little frightened by the opening concert, had now no doubt that some frightful hobgoblin had broken in upon them, and scampered away as fast as they could. The coast once clear, our travelers soon sat down and dispatched what the robbers had left, with much eagerness, as if they had not expected to eat again for a month. As soon as they had satisfied themselves, they put out the lights, and each once more sought out a resting place on his own liking. The donkey lay himself down upon a heap of straw in the yard, and the dog stretched himself upon a mat behind the door. The cat rolled herself up on the hearth before the warm ashes, and the cock perched upon a beam on the top of the house, and as they were all rather tired with their journey, they soon fell asleep. But about midnight, when the robbers saw from afar that the lights were out, and that all seemed quiet, they began to think that they had been in too great a hurry to run away, and one of them, who was bolder than the rest, went to see what was going on. Finding everything still, he marched into the kitchen and groped about till he found a match in order to light a candle, and then, espying the glittering, fiery eyes of the cat, he mistook them for live coals, and held the match to light it. But the cat, not understanding his joke, sprang at his face and spit, and scratched at him. This frightened him dreadfully, and away he ran to the back door. But there the dog jumped up and bit him in the leg. And as he was crossing over the yard, the ass kicked him, and the cock, who had been awakened by the noise, crowed with all his might at the robber. The robber ran back as fast as he could to his comrades, and told the captain how a horrid witch had got into the house, and had spit at him and scratched his face with her long bony fingers. How a man with a knife in his hand had hidden himself behind the door and stabbed him in the leg. How a black monster stood in the yard and struck him with a club, and how the devil sat upon the top of the house and cried out, "Throw the rascal up here!" After this, the robbers never dared to go back to the house. But the musicians were so pleased with their quarters that they took up their abode there, and there they are, I dare say, at this very day.